morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. Now last week a rumor surfaced that season 6, the upcoming season of Downton Abbey, would be its last. And sadly that rumor was confirmed earlier this week, devastating many a Downton Abbey fan, like myself. But there seems to be a silver lining out of all this, and that's that ITV is seriously considering following in the footsteps of HBO and making a Downton Abbey movie. Fascinating! We're going to talk about how a Downton Abbey movie might play out in a moment, but first let's talk about how movies are increasingly threatened by television as TV moves more and more into their space. It started out where TV got so good that people were like, I'm going to stay home and just watch this television show instead of seeing this movie. A horrible and revolting development for Hollywood, the movie part of Hollywood. Of course, TV is also a part of Hollywood. But as television continues to step up its game, not only in terms of quality but its budget, you're seeing a situation develop where fans of these shows are like, I wish that I could get a movie out of this TV show, or that it would at least somehow still live on. We're seeing that with Game of Thrones, although fans are divided about whether or not they want a Game of Thrones movie. I am decidedly in the yes camp, but I know many of you are against it. But still, it's a discussion that's taking place. So you're seeing a demand for these television shows to jump to the big screen. It's not hubris on their part. They're not like, we've got movies on the run. Let's keep going. Let's follow them all the way to the castle and take it over. They're being egged on by the viewers, which is a very good position to be in. And HBO has so far had success with the Sex and the City movies, and I think Entourage, to me, looks good. We'll see how it performs at the box office when it does finally hit theaters this summer. But again, there's the Game of Thrones situation, and now you have Downton Abbey very actively considering a jump to the big screen. And if ITV goes to the big screen, maybe we'll see some BBC properties go there as well, most notably Doctor Who, perhaps, and then Sherlock. Sherlock is already a bunch of little mini-movies as it is. Each season basically consists of 3 movies, television movies, and Benedict Cumberbatch is hopefully going to become a movie star here in the United States. He's on another attempt with Doctor Strange, but if anyone, as I've said before, can make him a movie star, it's Marvel. And of course, Martin Freeman makes plenty of movies, most notably The Hobbit. He plays Watson to Cumberbatch's Sherlock. So this could be very exciting. As it is, they're already working on that theme park in the UK that has a BBC section. I know, a British television section. So TV is getting so good that they have theme park attractions, and they also apparently are going to start having movies. Now, what could a Downton Abbey movie entail? When you do a movie version of a TV show, it can't be quite so episodic. You need to raise the stakes and have a clear storyline, which encompasses all your characters. Now, here's my suggestion, and I'd be very curious to know how you feel down below, so be sure to share your own thoughts. But what I'd like to see is that they keep saying that Branson's going to move to America. They keep threatening it every season, and maybe he'll move after season 5. You know, it's just ended. Maybe he moves. He'll move on the off time. Or maybe he'll move at the end of season 6, since it is the end of the show. So ship him off to Boston, as he's been threatening to do, to set up a new life with his daughter Sibby, and then you can have the family go and visit him. Of course, Cora's family is also already from the United States. Paul Giamatti plays her brother, so he's a movie actor. He could show up there. And, you know, you could have a whole situation where they get to have like a fish out of water scenario. They run into American culture. And also, since Americans love Downton Abbey so much, it will be a way to bring the fans together on both sides of the pond. Now, of course, Downton Abbey has fans in other places in the world, and maybe you think they should go and travel to your region. So I'd be very curious to see what you think would be a viable idea for a Downton Abbey movie. I would love to see them cross the sea and visit either Boston or New York, etc., etc. I think that would be the way to go, and we'll see what Julian Fellows comes up with. Maybe someone could be murdered. I don't think they would do that. It's a very light, it has its dramatic moments, but I don't think that would fit with the tone of the show. But very, very interesting. All right, so that's the first story of the day. Now, while I want to see the Granthams and company go someplace new, for the second story, Steven Spielberg is going someplace old and familiar, and that's blockbuster action movies. As you might recall, we've talked about Ready Player One, a property at Warner Brothers that they're very, very excited about. And they were hitting up every name director they could think of. Christopher Nolan they wanted to put on the film, Robert Zemeckis, Edgar Wright, Peter Jackson. They were just going through their Rolodex. But lo and behold, they ended up getting the big kahuna himself, Steven Spielberg. A great match with the property, which tells the story of someone who's trying to, I think, free the internet or something, but has to go through a number of challenges in a virtual reality world, Ready Player One. And the catch is that he has to answer a bunch of 1980s trivia questions because whoever created these challenges is a fan of 1980s pop culture. Now, Spielberg, of course, has contributed quite a bit to 1980s pop culture, and I think he's a very good choice with the material because if anyone can meld the 1980s aesthetic with today's aesthetic, it's Spielberg. And, he's very good at not only, I think, bringing in a family audience, but still at the same time creating something that appeals to just adults. But I think he's also very good at that 80s technology look, etc. I mean, he really can set a mood. And I'm also just excited to see Spielberg return to blockbuster filmmaking. He's a very talented director. I loved Lincoln. Not everybody loved Lincoln, but I really liked Lincoln. And of course, he did Schindler's List, etc. But I think that still, to this day, he really excels in the family blockbuster, like Jurassic Park, etc. He really knows what he's doing. E.T., Jaws, you watch these movies and they're just masterfully made. I learned filmmaking off of Jaws. It was fun. My film teacher did not tell me while he was playing Jaws continuously. You had to figure it out for yourself. And I did. And it was really a masterclass in filmmaking. Jaws is a brilliant and incredibly well-constructed film. Genius! They don't make them like that anymore. Even to some degree, Spielberg doesn't make them like that anymore. And so I would hope that maybe he would return to that level of quality filmmaking. Now, my only concern, though, is that the 1980s trivia angle could be limiting in terms of audience appeal. I think if you're going to have a game-like situation that you set up in the movie, it's important that the audience feels they can play along. Kind of like when you watch Jeopardy. You're like, I'm going to try and answer the questions too. But I think the 1980s trivia is a very limited base of knowledge, and there's only a certain group of people that are into 1980s trivia and can answer said questions. So I really wonder if a big budget movie could excel in that. Perhaps just pop culture questions in general. Maybe they might want to update it from the 1980s setting. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. They could maybe do a big ad campaign getting you ready for 1980s trivia, but still, I think it would be very limiting, and especially, if you want to have families attend. I think a lot of little kids would be like, why do I care about 1980s trivia again? Please refresh my memory. So we'll see. But great news for Spielberg that at least he's returning to that. And so he has a lot on his plate. He's got the Bridge of Spies movie that he's filming right now with Tom Hanks wrapping up, which is supposed to be an Oscar contender. He's also got The Big Friendly Giant, which is next up on his schedule. And then he has this, but also that Jennifer Lawrence war photographer movie, also at Warner Brothers. So I guess he and Warner Brothers are becoming buddies right about now. So the question is, which will he make first, Ready Player One or that Jennifer Lawrence movie? Which, by the way, just landed a screenwriter, one of her Mockingjay writers. Not Danny Strong, but another one. So I'm curious to see how that will turn out. The Mockingjay film, I felt, was quite well written. A brilliant study of propaganda, but I know not all of you enjoyed it. So that's the second story of the day. Now, the third story of the day is something, again, yesterday we talked about too many X-Men. Well, today we have too many Lego movies. They've just greenlit another one. Right now, we have definitively Ninjago in 2016, the Lego Batman movie, which is the one I'm excited about, set for 2017, and then in 2018 they have the Lego movie sequel. So they're trying to go for a Lego movie a year. That's ambitious. That's a lot of Lego movies. I really wonder if the brand is strong enough to support that kind of involvement from the audience. Especially if you're going to be telling different types of stories. I think we all like to play with Legos, but in terms of a film franchise, I don't really know if it could be something like Marvel or DC where you can go and explore different worlds. At the end of the day, they're all the cute little same figures, right? I mean, I think that I could understand the Batman spin-off and I could understand the Lego movie sequel, but I'm having a hard time understanding the appeal of Ninjago, and then also this new film, The Billion Brick Race. Now, this was pitched to Warner Brothers by Pearce, who co-wrote Iron Man 3, and he also worked on the standalone All Hail the King. So he's an action guy, and he pitched this idea. They loved it so much they were like, let's make a fourth Lego movie. Let's greenlight a fourth one. And they've put Jason Segel on it with him. And Jason Segel, of course, has had a lot of success with the Muppets, reinvigorating that brand. But I think the Muppets wasn't quite the blockbuster success that the Lego movie was, and I don't really know if Jason Segel is on the same level as Christopher Miller and Phil Lord. Now, those two will be producing this film. They're part of the Lego Brain Trust that Warner Brothers has put together, which also includes producer Dan Lin and Roy Lee. I believe Lee is directing one of these movies as well. So there's no details on what the actual story of the Billion Brick Race is, but it is going into development, and so it's set for a fourth film, I guess for 2019. But what I'm really curious is which of these Lego movies are you the most excited about, and do you really think that the fandom here can support this many Lego movies? I think it's too many. I think they should go one every other year, and I would just stick with the main storyline that they've established with Emmett, etc. And I think really only the Batman spinoff is viable because it was just so strong. But we'll see. I hope I'm proven wrong, but I hope that this was a great start to a potential franchise. Let's hope Warner Brothers doesn't run it into the ground right off the bat. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so those are the 3 stories of the day. Now, I have a fantastic viewer question. I've waited all week to answer it because I wanted to make sure I could give it enough time, and I just got a wonderful email over the weekend from Graham Moore. And Graham Moore is a teacher at the Lakeland Senior High School. And so Graham wrote me this great email, and I'm so happy to be able to discuss it today for the viewer question. And I'd like to also say hi to Mr. Moore's students. You have a wonderful teacher who cares about you so much, as you're about to see. So this is what Mr. Moore wrote me. So he said, "Hello, Grace. I've been watching your channel now for about a year and love your take on the movie industry." Thank you, Mr. Moore. I am a high school humanities teacher and often use clips from shows during the pertinent sections of our film unit. Wow, I hope I'm reading that correctly, that you use clips from my show. Showing any film or any film subject in class is always awesome, and just as I talked about Jaws, maybe you guys will watch Jaws in class. But if you're showing this show at all, I'm incredibly humbled and honored, so thank you. And so Mr. Moore continues saying, "I was hoping you would answer a question for my students that often comes up when we are discussing movies." Happy to! Specifically, the question is, who is the primary artist in the filmmaking process? Are films the artistic product of the actors involved, the director, the editors, the producers, or the studios? Or are movies just too much of a collaborative effort, and the only way to have a truly singular vision is if a single person fills as many of those roles as possible, such as Clint Eastwood or Ben Affleck? It would be awesome if you could answer this so I can show it to my kids in class. 2 smiley faces. Oh, well, thank you so much, Mr. Moore. I loved your email, and I just think it's so wonderful to see a teacher who cares so much about his students and the filmmaking process, and really wanting to give them the best, put them in the best position possible to understand the movies they're enjoying so much, and perhaps to even participate in the industry itself. So this is a great question. I think we've circled it a few times before here on the show, but I think that I'm happy to address it directly. Now, as for the collaborative process, I think even when you have someone who is filling a number of roles, a multi-hyphenate as they call it, like Clint Eastwood or Ben Affleck, I still don't think that you can totally attribute the final product to that individual, because there's just so much going into it. There's still a writer. Often there's, sometimes these guys write as well, but usually they have someone helping them at the very least. There's still the other actors. And then also, I think, as we've seen lately, production design and costume design can have a tremendous impact on the final product. Look at movies like Cinderella, and many other films that are coming out these days. And also, of course, there's the visual effects department, which are becoming very crucial to the way a film turns out. So there's tons of people contributing, and I think that's wonderful, and I'm glad that more people are becoming aware of it, because I think it opens up so many more opportunities for you to join the entertainment industry should you choose to do so, and to know that your contributions will be valued, that you won't just become part of the faceless mass standing behind the director or the movie star, that people will recognize all the different contributions that are made to a film. So I don't think that you can ever have a singular creative voice, even if it is from a multi-hyphenate. And also because the studios well, give their notes to everyone and to anyone. I think that it's very rare to be so big that you don't get notes from the studio, and you want notes from the studio because, as we've discussed before, look at what happens when you're unfiltered, when you're unedited. You have the Wachowskis' career, which is really unfortunate to see them, slide so far down the quality ladder. So I think that these are also checks and balances that are in place. You're not only looking at creative people working together, which is wonderful, on the movie itself, but you also have the checks and balances to make sure that nobody messes up too badly. Well, that's the idea. Sometimes they still do mess up, but still the idea is that a studio executive will catch it, or the director will catch maybe the writer's mistake, or the DP might be able to have a good idea that director maybe missed. You want everybody to contribute. Now, at the same time, you don't want things to go crazy. You don't want people to go too off the rails. And when you don't have a direction to the creative voices, they're not all, harnessed, it can end up being a mess, which is why I'm not a big fan of movies that are too improvised, because I think they lose sight of the end goal. So as you can see, I said that they need to have these voices directed. And I think that at the end of the day, if anyone can be given any credit for the way a film turns out, it's the director. And I think the director is more of a conductor. I'm talking about, of course, like with a symphony or an orchestra. The conductor takes all of the talent that's in front of them and channels it constructively in the right direction. Is the final say, is able to make sure that the hierarchy stays in place. Can say, that's a great idea, Will Ferrell. I love that suggestion, but maybe you should dial it down a notch. And maybe we can also bring this in because you're overshadowing Paul Rudd. I'm just picking Will Ferrell because I think he's a big improviser. And then also don't forget that this is the goal of the movie and the goal of the scene. Don't go too off the rails, or we're not going to have any momentum to the story and the film itself. So that's why the director is there. Also, the director often has the biggest impact on how everything looks. For instance, Christopher Nolan. You can easily tell a Christopher Nolan movie. A Steven Spielberg movie. Very easy to tell. Edgar Wright. Also very easy to tell. And I think that movies that have a strong director often turn out the best. And I think sometimes I've said before, there are three kinds of directors. A director who helps a movie, a director who doesn't get in the way of the movie and just allows it to stay on track and for everyone else to do their job and let someone else shine. For instance, in Cinderella, I felt Kenneth Branagh didn't get in the way of the movie, and it really ended up being driven by the production department, the costume department, and Cate Blanchett. And also, to some degree, the visual effects. Everybody did a nice job in Cinderella, except the writing team, in my opinion. But Kenneth Branagh, again, didn't get in the way. And then the third kind of director is someone who hurts a movie by, maybe not being a good leader and muddling up the voice, the direction of the film, and perhaps letting someone get out of control and hijack the film. That's why the director is there, to be the driver, to make sure everything works out, and often to instill their creative voice. Like Tim Burton, also very strong director and creative voice. So I think if anyone can be attributed to a film, in terms of, their artistic voice, it's a director. But I think that we're seeing that the other contributions should not be undervalued. Look at the Oscars this year. You saw both for Whiplash and the Grand Budapest Hotel, everybody winning but the director, but yet at the same time when they went up to get their Oscars, they thanked those directors for doing such a wonderful job leading the team. So that, I think, really is, telling. So my answer to your question is it's obviously a very complicated answer. The director has the strongest voice, and ideally it has the person who has, drives the talent, but the other contributions should not be undervalued or ignored. So I hope that's helpful. I love that your class is watching this. I hope they enjoy it. Everyone say hello to Mr. Moore's class. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. Please write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories and the viewer question, anything you'd like to see covered on Monday, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.